is Shiloh Ekstrom out of Duluth, Minnesota. I am here with Robert Ferguson, celebrity fitness coach and trainer and creator of the Diet Free Life. Okay, Robert, I wanted you on this show today because, number one, we've been friends for a few years now, but you've also walked me through some really interesting times with health, fitness, emotional things. You've been very supportive, and I want to take this amazingness and bring it to our listeners and whoever tunes in, because you are incredible. You have an incredible bio. I'm not going to talk too much because I'm going to let you kind of share, but because you have, a bio so long that, I couldn't even repeat it. But I got to know you back at a work event. We were a part of the same company. You were on stage, and I had a girlfriend, Amanda, who was on my show last week, who just something about you drew her in. And then I was watching you and her communicate, and I'm like, I gotta know this dude. Like, this guy is speaking my language. But there was something about you that I really, really was drawn to, not just the flashy clothes and the fun dancing, but more of, I think this person can really help me. And why I think it's important for you to come on here today is everybody struggles with health and fitness right now. I'm watching so many people in the last year, and our journey kind of went all over last year because we were supposed to start a few projects together. All of a sudden COVID hit, we were in quarantine. Everyone was like scrambling, trying to figure it out. And we've stayed in contact, and now we are going to be launching some fun projects together soon. But when it comes to health and fitness, I've watched a lot of my friends and a lot of people in our industry and all over struggling. It's hard to get out. The gym's closed. Everybody's outlets, like for me, was yoga. I couldn't go to yoga anymore. I couldn't, everything just stopped. And I really needed a place to release some of that stress. And stress was a big factor for me. So we're going to go into that. But before we do, I really want to hear, tell us a little bit about you and your background, because you've been in this fitness space for so long, but you have an incredible story. So let's just get started with that. Let's share a little bit of your story. Who is Robert Ferguson? Where the hell do you come from? And why are you so special?
Well, I want to say thank you and congrats on your show. I believe the world is going to be happier and healthier because Shiloh is in the house. But no, thank you. And I think that you're great and you're special. You're a superstar. And I do believe that the cream rises to the top. And that's why we've connected, because our goal really is to make a difference in the world of so many people. But in short, my background, I'm going to make myself come across much older than I am. But I've been in the weight loss space since 95.
Wow.
And I got into it heavily because of my mom. And my mom is one of those women who has struggled her entire life with her weight. And as a result of that struggle, the joy of losing 100 pounds on her face, and I saw the sadness of gaining it all back. And so I'm a mama's boy, and that put me on the path of getting to where I am now. So my undergrad is dietetics. I have a master's in counseling psychology. I'm a former U.S. Marine. Pro athlete, and I've been helping people lose weight by meeting them where they are. And at this point, we've done 3 evidence-based clinical studies to demonstrate the efficacy of our program. So everything that you and I talk about as far as nutrition, weight loss, health, has all been vetted out by big companies like Aetna, United Healthcare, Anthem, we've done a lot of work with. Even McDonald's Corporation, I've done some work with, based on their cultural desires of food. Because, if someone's from the Philippines, they're going to eat white rice. If somebody's from Thailand, they're going to eat curry. If somebody's from India, they're going to probably eat ghee. If you're from where I'm from, you're going to eat soul food. So it's like, so we show people how to get healthier, lose weight, eating the foods that they're going to eat in private. How's that?
Yeah, I like that. And so I'm the classic yo-yo dieter. In my 20s, you could get away with it. And I'm not putting cleanses or anything down, but it was just really extreme stuff. And it worked in my 20s. when I was up, I was down, that 10 to 15 pounds. I'm a short girl. So, it shows on me. Like it shows everywhere. And I can't gain 10 pounds. Like some people can fluctuate like that, but I was fluctuating and I carry it all on my lower part, which I guess nowadays is like the thing, you carry it all in your ass. I'm serious. Everybody likes that, I guess. But I always had this insecurity around my legs and my butt, and that's where I would gain it. And so yo-yo dieted in my 20s. I finished having kids, went into my 30s and was a public speaker and was on stage a lot. So I started to do extreme things. Like I went through a body dysmorphia stage. Like I was getting plastic surgery. I was really paranoid about even a little bit. And it got to a point where I was unhealthy up here. And I had to break that. So when I met you, I was pretty open and honest about it. I was going through a really stressful time in my life when I met Robert. So I had a huge legal battle going on, a lot of personal things. And I was drinking tons of wine and I was, consuming all these extra calories to just kind of numb it and also just to deal with it. And when you drink at night, then you're also snacking. And I was just doing all the wrong things. And I was spiraling. I wasn't sleeping. But your diet-free life program is so enticing to so many people. Because I just talked to somebody about it today. I'm like, I want to introduce you to my friend Robert. No diets. I had to break the psychological because I was scared to work with you at first. It was working right away, but I had to let go of these old things. So talk to us about the diet-free life program and the psychology around it, because there's a lot of people like me who are so scared to not get that first 5 days, like extreme stuff happening.
Right.
And it still can. You can still lose it. But I want to talk about the diet-free life because it's changed so much about me. Up here, physically, I am just a healthier person. But I want to encourage people to just hear you out and the philosophy behind it.
Oh, well, thank you. Well, I love where your mind is. I love the fact that that getting it right upstairs really can set the tempo for a person to be successful, not just short term, but for the long term. Our philosophy, as I mentioned, is to meet someone where they are. The psychology is a no diet philosophy, meaning get yourself educated, become informed. When you put a lot of your focus on the scale, for instance, mentally you put yourself in jail. Come on, should I say it one more time? And she came in and type 2 diabetic. He literally had a hemoglobin A1C of 11.1%, which that's really, really high. When you get numbers like that, we're looking at insulin injections, amputations, and many complications, right? Mm-hmm. Well, he's down 32 pounds. In 3 months, he went from 11.1 to 6%. So his sister sees this all taking place. So she comes in, I meet with her, and this woman has been eating salad and protein for like 4 years, and her weight keeps going up. And so I did her numbers, and we came to an agreement that we didn't want to be mentally in jail and tied to the scale. So she says, Robert, I really don't want to know. I'm trusting you. Let's just move forward. I said, you know what we call that? And she says, what? I said, it's called creating health. When you're creating health, you don't have to step on the scale to see if it's working. Because everything that you're doing is creating health, and you're not focused on preventing disease. That make sense?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So if you're creating, I don't need to get on the scale. If there's fat that's going to leave my body, it's going to leave my body. And so, yes, I'm measuring and checking her body composition as we're going along. And she's eating pasta and she's eating, foods that she hadn't been eating. But yet, in the last 2 weeks, she went down in weight 5 pounds and body fat percentage 1%, which is really, really good. Mm-hmm. So I share that story because if people can get their mind wrapped around that, just create, then they won't be caught up on the scale. And being caught up on what that scale says can set the mood. It can make you happy for the day, as you know, or it can make you feel horrible. And when you feel horrible, there's a spiral downward, right? And from a psychological standpoint, you're going down. It's hard to turn things around, and you know what to do, but you're not doing what you know. And the bigger the gap is between knowing something and doing it, the worse you feel about yourself inside. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to turn it around when you're spiraling down. And that means that you start to feel even worse about yourself on the inside. So then you drink and you say, all right, well, Monday I got to get it together. Monday I got to get it together. And Monday never comes. And you're trapped. So then your friend is doing keto or intermittent fasting or paleo or some diet where you don't eat and you're hungry or hangry, and you go, I'm going to do that. because you got to do something, and you know it's not right, but you need a jump start. So you're searching, and I feel for people like that because, mentally they start to lose, and then it's just tough to turn around. It's like Tiger Woods, at one point he was mentally extremely strong. Life got turned upside down, and it took him years to turn it around. But he did. He stayed the course. So mindset is critical in everything that has to do with health, weight loss, keeping it off, and living your best life.
I totally agree. And it's so funny. I was the Monday girl. Like, okay, Monday is going to come. I'm going to do a 3-day detox. I had a system, and it worked for a while. But again, we're going to talk about stuff that's probably going to piss people off here because I'm going to bring up keto. Number one, I'm not a keto fan. You're not going to hear me push keto ever. I'm not saying it can't work. Obviously, you can go on any diet and it works. It doesn't mean it lasts, and it doesn't mean it's healthy and safe. I'm not an intermittent fasting person either. Again, I think there are types of fasting that are okay. I like fasted cardio in the morning. I think a 20-minute fasted to 45-minute, that's where I think of fasting. I think like that. I don't care if I'm hurting people's feelings. If you're the keto queen, great. I just don't support keto. I don't. And what is that? What was it called in the 80s? What was keto again?
Atkins.
Atkins, yeah. We've all done the same thing, and everyone's like, it's not the same. And I'm like, well, it is. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about diets. We see these diets everywhere, and let's break up these myths around them. Yes, you can lose weight on any crazy thing you do, but let's talk about why keto, number one, it could be dangerous to some people. Let's just talk about it, because I think people need to be a little bit more educated. They jump into these and they don't talk to doctors, and they could be putting their health at risk, not knowing it or not being educated enough. That's the better way.
Right. Well, most people who say they're doing keto are not doing keto. Scientific keto is extremely difficult to do. I would recommend you do it under the medical supervision. It's very, very, very tough. I mean, you're talking 5% of your total calories per day coming from carbohydrates. That's nothing, right? Mm-hmm. Then you're looking at, a little bit of protein, a little bit, and about 75%, actually 75% fat. I mean, how much avocado can you eat? Most people are doing low carb, calling it keto.
Sure.
And unfortunately, what a lot of people know that a ton of data that is demonstrated that low carb eating increases mortality, and it's upward of 20+%. So you're shortening your life, even though you may lose some weight, you're creating other damage that you can't even see. And if you're a woman, age 40 and up, one of the worst things you could do for your metabolism, for your health, for your future, for your bone density, is keto. Proven without a doubt. Now, if you're young and you're hitting the weights and you're exercising all the time and you're telling everybody, I do keto, God bless you, and that's great. Because the thing that would help you would be that you're lifting weights and you're hitting the weights really hard. But most women over the age of 40, the last thing you want to do is lose bone density and lean muscle tissue. It's going to cause you to age. You're going to look older sooner. It's going to put you at risk for hip fractures and all types of negatives that are associated with the loss of bone density. It's going to make losing weight again, because you're going to gain it back, much more difficult the next time around. And then if you do something else crazy, it's going to make it even that much more difficult. So keto is not your friend, and that's not a stab at anybody. That's a fact. And you can put me in a room with anyone and we can go data for data. The data is there. It's very clear. But we live in a world where we have freedom of speech, and everyone has the right to talk about and recommend and do the things that they feel will be best for them. So there you go for keto, people.
And here's the deal. The reason I bring that up is I've seen you go toe to toe on shows. Robert's been featured on everything and everything. He's also done counseling for the White House, I believe. You've been on panels. You've done a lot. I mean, when I say you have a bio that's so long, he knows his stuff. And you can look him up, and we're going to get you some information on Robert as well. But it's important for people to know this, because we get things shoved in our faces and it looks fun. It looks, here's the thing that I'll point out. When I was yo-yoing and when I was skinny, like I was really thin, I look at those pictures from 5 years ago. I did not look healthy. Like I thought I did at the time, but I aged myself. When you talk bone density and you talk about what it does, I look better now with where I'm at. And I'm older, and my body's functioning on a different level. Your skin improves. You see it in people. When people are taking care of themselves, because skinny doesn't mean healthy, and we can say it every day, all day. And I know women, I like to be little. We're all guilty of it. We want to get small, but when you can see your skin and you feel good and you look good, that's like gold. And it does make a difference. And I'm here to tell women listening right now, you can do this without a diet. And guess what? I eat whatever I want. Like, the beauty of this program of Robert's is that once I broke some of the psychological, and my son just asked me last night, he's like, Mom, I want to learn to cook for you. He likes cooking. He's very young. He's 11. And I said, well, learn how to cook mostly plant-based. And I was laughing because I really stick to mostly plant-based. But what I said, though, is I'm like, I can eat whatever I want. And I said, and I do, right? And I asked him I'm like, will I eat steak sometimes? Yeah. I don't eat a ton of red meat. I don't eat any processed food. That's me. But if I had to, or I do, I don't feel bad about it. I don't get sick because I'm not consuming on something or one type of, like, I'm sitting here eating red meat all day, or like you said, 100 avocados and fats and bacons, and I'm eating in a balanced way where my body feels good and it's healthy. And when you can get to that level, it's such a shift. And I just encourage everybody to get over to Robert's page, and we'll announce it at the end of the show here, and just look at it, because balanced eating is everything. And okay, so let's talk about this. Go ahead. Well, you finish. I have a question.
Well, as you're talking, you made a couple of comments, and I'll sit here going, man, she reminds me of Marilyn Monroe.
Oh. Okay. That's a compliment.
I mean, it is a compliment, and you do. I don't know what her height was, but back in the day, Marilyn Monroe, when she was a size 12, that's a modern day size 6.
Mm-hmm.
And she was considered curvy, look very different than most of the women that were on TV, right? Because we didn't have social media and all that, right? You couldn't see all these Instagram models. But back then, I mean, she had a shape and a figure that, people started admiring. And you fast forward today, she would fit right in with Kim Kardashian. They'd be walking down the red carpet together. Right? But if you go back and look, women love her, how she was taking care of herself. She was really big into lifting weights and exercising, and she had a nutrition plan. At one point, she was interviewed, and they kind of went in pretty deep into her nutrition plan. It was diet-free life. Mm-hmm. Isn't that cool?
It's so cool. Like, yeah. Well, that's the way that we were meant to eat. We are meant to eat balanced. You don't have to sacrifice everything. And right. And I know that there's a lot of emotional eating, and there's other issues that, will trump some of the stuff we're talking about, and we have to work through those. But, it's just a blessing when you're like, oh, I can eat whatever I want. Oh, if we're going to go on a date, if you go on a date, you don't want to be like, well, I can't eat this, and this. It's like, no, I'll eat whatever the hell I want. Or, half the dessert, Oh my God, it's so funny. I have to tell you this story. So it was my birthday. We went to Universal Studios. This is so off topic, but I have to share it because my sister-in-law she brought it up the other night and I was laughing so hard. Okay, so we go to Universal Studios. The kids are in the hotel and we were at the Hard Rock. So if you've ever been to a Hard Rock, they're fun. You know, the restaurants are fun. We stayed there. The kids loved it. So she brings me out for my birthday right in the hotel restaurant. It was some Italian. We had everything. Like I remember I felt I was stuffed, but I'm like, I got to have the cake because it looked so good. I love whipped cream, like the real whipped cream. And so they bring this cake out. This man sings in Italian to me. So, and I'm also a couple wines in with her and we're just having the best time. So I get this cake and I eat the whole thing. Like, and I'm eating it. And she's like, can I have a bite? And there was one little slice left, like just with whipped cream. I said, I'm sorry, I ate the whole thing. So I hand it to her. She's eating it and she's a little bit tipsy. She eats the damn candle. There was no cake left and she starts eating it. And she's like, I ate the candle. I ate the whole cake and left the whipped cream on the plate. Anyways, it's so funny. I just think of that story. I had to bring it up. But you can eat the cake. I say that all the time, eat the damn cake. And it's okay. And wouldn't it be nice to eat the damn cake and not cry about it or go feel like a pile of crap the next day, you know? And I think that's what's important. I mean, think about how many people, and you see this every day, but I see it in our industry too. Think about the women who are so unhappy all the time because their worth is measured by the scale. Think about how, ruining days, ruining moments. How about vacations and pictures? Won't even take a photo. Like that's where, I think what you're doing is so important and reversing the mindset around this diet and all these crazy things. You don't need it. It's okay. All right, let's go into everyone loves a detox. Everyone. What would be your top tips for anyone listening right now that's like, okay, I get it, no diets. I'm going to look into your program, but what could you tell somebody to reset the metabolism a little bit if they're looking to do a couple things? What are the top tips that are doable for anyone? Don't involve a gym. You're big on this. How can somebody start developing some really healthy habits right now and maybe see a little bit of a change in the next week or two? If they're trying.
Okay, so I'm going to answer and give you some tips there. So I'm going to go back. When you mentioned plant-based, you also touched on eating what you want. Yeah. One of my dear friends, and I'm not sure if I ever shared this with you, but he was 111 years old when I met him. Oh. His name is Bernardo. And Bernardo, I met him in Arizona. He was getting a Sanitarian Award. And I was there as the keynote speaker, and that's how I met him. And this guy looked amazing. Like absolutely, mind-blowing amazing. I will send you a photo, and people are like, show us the photo. Anyway, Fernando died when he was 114. And the last time I saw him, he was 113. And so I took a video crew, we went to his house, and I spent the whole day with him. From the time he woke up, I watched him work out. This guy was born 1901. And so I videotaped him the entire day, right? And so as videotaping him the entire day, we got to a place where I'm walking around, I see this plaque on the wall. And this plaque, it said, what did it say? It said, congratulations on your retirement. And it was in 1956. Now, think about that. This guy was in his 60s when he watched Dr. Martin Luther King give a speech in New York.
Wow.
So I bring him up because he lived his whole life plant-based. Sorry about that. And as part of his plant-based, like living, he had that chivalry thing about him where if he came to your home and you served steak, even though he didn't eat that at home, he would eat the steak. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there was not a life of restriction. He was mostly plant-based, more vegetarian for him. He didn't eat chicken and steak inside of his home, but whenever he was out, I guess moderation would be the thing I would say is part of what we do and help people, so you don't have to give up everything.
Right.
The recommendation that I would give to those who want to do something now goes back to my very first seminar I ever did. Before I had any education with dietetics, I had no knowledge of general public fitness. My whole thing was motivation psychology, right? And so when I did this first seminar, I told the women, I said, look, you guys all know more about nutrition and all this diet stuff than I do. This is in 1995. And I said, but you're not doing the things that you know, kind of what I mentioned earlier. I said, you know that it's best for you to drink more water than to drink more soda. Do what you already know. So most people already have a pretty good idea. They know to get active, but when are they going to start? So my recommendation was get a program, make it free. Get a coach if you can afford it, and that makes sense to you, because that structure is going to put you on a path of success. Get someone that helps with that part, and then with that will come accountability. With that will mean you have support. And if it makes sense and it feels right in your gut, it's probably going to work out and be right. Mm-hmm. So your gut brought us together. My gut brought us together. And there's actually science that ties into this thing called microbiome, which is gut bacteria, which we now know scientifically that every thought and everything that's taking place in our mind is not just in our mind here, it's in our mind and our gut. And that's the truth.
For gut health, probiotics, prebiotics, where are you, what would you tell somebody? I think of most people's issue. I mean, like really, most people's issue is the digestion. Like if you talk to a woman, okay, let's just be real. Every time I talk to a guy, they have no issue going to the bathroom. None. I talk to every woman I know, they're not going on a daily basis even. Like this is a huge issue. Mm-hmm. For women, I know we're going to aim a lot at women on this. Help them. What do they need to know? Real quick, like how can you? I'm good now. I'm good, but most people aren't. Most people aren't.
Well, the gentleman I mentioned, Fernando, mm-hmm. His dad was an herbologist, and when I was talking to him, of course I would say, "So, man, you look great. The quality of life that you have is amazing. What's your secret?" And the first thing that he shared with me was gut health. Literally, that was the first thing he said at 111. And then do the things that improve that. And then if you go back to the days of Hippocrates, right, the father of modern day medicine over 2,000 years ago, he said that all disease begins in the gut, right? Mm-hmm. And so all these people who are having these gut challenges, oftentimes they run to supplement. And so they'll first it was probiotics, and then that industry started really growing, and then they said, oh, but you also need prebiotics. And if you are eating vegetables, broccoli, bell peppers, onions, right? If you're eating a variety of those types of foods, that's your prebiotic, because it's the fiber that fuels the gut bacteria to create more healthy gut bacteria. So there is no need for a prebiotic supplement. Mm-hmm. So I say that because, there are people that sell prebiotics, which is fine. Do your thing, but food is really your friend. Mm-hmm. And then when it comes to probiotics, again, fermented foods are considered probiotics. Anything that you're eating that's helping your gut create more of the healthy bacteria is what they mean by these pre and probiotics. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So going to plant-based a little bit, and I say food heals. I've learned this, and I'm like, wow, it totally does. For me, being balanced comes down to eating those types of foods. And it doesn't matter if I take a supplement, the supplement will not work on the level that within one meal, my body and my belly can calm down. And I want people to understand that. Like, could you imagine if you just ate maybe 2 to 3 meals in the next 24 hours, 48 hours even, that are balanced, like we talk about, the changes that happen in the 24 to 48 hours are unbelievable. I say that for women mostly. I'm not saying that guys don't apply. They do. But what I find, women's nutrition and health, there are differences. And women really they struggle. Obviously, we're different. Men and women are different. I mean, that's up for debate, I guess now, but it's science. There's a man and a woman. And so, our bodies need different things and they function differently. Obviously, we're child bearers. Women have different things and men have different things. We're both wonderful and beautiful. But I think it's important for people to know that if you could get just the basics of what we're talking about within 24 to 48 hours, you could feel and see results even. I mean, it's just, it's that simple.
A lot of women that are not regular are malnourished. They're not really eating much. And then when they do eat, maybe food insecurity comes in where they will eat a little bit more than they would be happy with after they ate it. But they, in their mind, it's like, well, if I went ahead and blew it, let's just blow it, right?
I've done it.
Yeah. And so what happens is that plays a big role on stimulating inflammation in the body, disrupting the gut bacteria, and then that leads to constipation. It leads to bloating, and then sometimes they're taking certain medications. Then next thing you know, they're taking the antibiotics. That creates disruption in the gut, and all of that just leads to negative outcomes. The best thing that people can do is make sure you're hydrated, drink water, and get the real information. It's like I had a woman the other day that came in, and I mentioned honey, because when I have my cup of coffee, which I've been drinking it like for way too long, heat it up, drink it, heat it up. But every day I want to have honey. Every day I need honey, because honey is packed with so many health benefits, and it tastes good. Mm-hmm. And she looked at me and she goes, well, I thought honey was high in sugar. And that's one of those things that's out there, and she's missing out on. I said, ma'am, honey was something that God made possible for us to enjoy, and it's the only food that does not spoil. You could go over to Egypt and enter tombs that have been closed for thousands of years, and you will find honey stored in jars, and it's still edible. So why would you not consume something that is so amazing and naturally healthy for our bodies? Mm-hmm. And we could talk about a whole bunch of different things that people run from. I have people say, well, I don't eat carrots. And I go, why? Because they're high in sugar? Yeah. I said, where did you get that from? They said, well, I heard the glycemic index. I said, okay. The glycemic index, which is pretty popular, was based on 50 grams of carbs being consumed at one time. In order for you to get 50 grams of carbs with carrots, you would have to eat a pound of carrots. Who eats a pound of carrots? You don't do that. So again, misinformation sets us up. And if I was out there preaching or in the fitness industry or even in stuff, I would say, get real knowledgeable, concrete information when you're talking to people, because they believe you. You're an influencer. They're going to do what you encourage them to do, and they're going to believe that it's going to work. And when it doesn't work for them, then inside again, they're going to feel that much worse, because they feel like, okay, I did it. Why me? Why is my life like this? Why can't I be? Why is it so difficult for me? It worked for her. She told me it would work, and it didn't. Disappointment. I call it a disappointment bag. Boom. Then, you do it again. Boom, another disappointment bag. So by the time I meet these people, they got like 7-8 bags on them, right? They bring in some luggage. I go, oh my God. Okay, let's take those bags off and restart.
Oh, well, that's the thing, is you're trying to take the baggage off, that's where you meet a lot of people, and I get it. I mean, I know my own personal battles, so it's like I can't imagine. And my dad was obese when he passed. He struggled with his weight the last 15 years of his life. A lot of that had to do with alcohol and the lifestyle. But at the same time, I watched his struggle and what it did to him up here, because he was a handsome man all his life. He was athletic. And then his body just went, it was like it totally backfired. And it was sad watching that, and I think part of some of my fear when I was in my 20s, because he passed away in my late 20s, I was so afraid that could happen to me. And I think it kind of put me into this weird place where I'm like, oh my gosh, well, this can happen to my dad. What about me? Am I going to have that?
Right.
I always had that in the back of my mind, and which led me down unhealthy pathways. But okay, so you've worked with a ton of celebrities. Let's talk about it real quick as we wrap up a little bit and go into a different area. You worked with a lot of celebrities. I see you with a lot of celebrities, and kind of tell me about that. Tell the listeners, a little bit of your journey in that area. How did you start working with boxers? I know you were training boxers. Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about that. Boxing is so fascinating to me. I just love it. I would love to go to a professional match. Like, that's one of my things. It's on my list. Like, I just want to go and I want to sit right there. I want to get blood on me, for God's sakes. Isn't that weird? I'm a weirdo.
All right.
But yeah, let's talk about you were training
I'm going to help make that happen. We're going to do that.
Okay, awesome. It's going to be awesome. I love it. I'm excited.
Yep. So get ready. It will happen. I predict it will happen in 2021.
Perfect.
You know what? No, I work with a lot of celebrities, and I still work with a good amount of celebrities. I don't like working with most celebrities. It's fun and exciting in the beginning, but after you work with so many, it doesn't really matter, and it's just. I get it. They're celebrities, and you get to a place where there's a little bit of narcissism with many, not all, but with many, and that's what makes them so amazing. And multiply that by 10 when you're working with professional boxers, right? So, yes, it's great to work with the LaToya Jackson because I was a Jackson fan. I never got to meet Michael, and he was like my most favorite entertainer of all time. But LaToya was my manager and my client. And I got to spend a lot of time around her, which, I love because she was the one who influenced Michael on his dress, how he wore his clothes, etc. With Shah Khan, working with Tony Braxton, who became a very, very dear friend of mine. Started as a client and then became like a cool friend. And that's a cool story how we met. Which I hate to throw it out there like that and then don't tell them, but you can ask about it, I'll tell you about it later. And Ricky Lake, then Ricky Lake wanted to do something with the whole childhood obesity thing. I remember being at one of those conferences, and I had mentioned Ricky Lake, and we're sitting down having wine. I'm talking to a bunch of the ladies at the conference, and one of them goes, "You don't know Ricky Lake." I go, "Really?" And I don't usually do stuff like this, but now we can FaceTime. So I FaceTime her. And then Ricky got to have a whole conversation with the crew, sitting at the table, drinking wine, getting loud. But how I got into the boxing world was there was a guy named Fernando Vargas who at the time was really famous boxer. It was him, Mike Tyson, Oscar De La Hoya were like the three most recognizable names in that world. And he had heard about Diet Free Life and what I was doing, and he literally reached out to me, quit boxing career, he loved too much. That, when you're making that kind of money and you're having that much fun, the last thing you want to do is lose the weight so you can step in the ring. And he heard that he could still eat spaghetti and meatballs and pancakes and French toast. Well, let's give this guy a shot. So I worked with him for a month. He lost 20 pounds that first month. HBO called, HBO pay-per-view called, all the top executives. They did a special on us, which was amazing. So my first boxer at that level was Fernando Vargas, two-time world champion, and I got him back, and he earned about another $20 million because of the work I did with him. And then I worked on a TV show called The Contender, which was a reality show, and I was a nutrition conditioning guy on that show. And then I worked with a lady named Lucia Riker, who is the real $1 Million Baby, before the real $1 Million Baby, who also was my client. So when you work with one and you're successful, the next thing you know, everybody's calling. And I'm actually looking at returning to doing some work in that space. A little bit with some MMA guys that fight in the UFC. So I've had a couple meetings, and I got some boxers. So that's why I said I know that I can help make that happen.
I'm excited. I think it's just fun. The world is all Instagram and the likes and the followers. And that's why I always bring up celebrities, and it's always fun to talk about, the cool stories. But yeah, I think you've done some incredible work. You have an incredible program. and people need to know about it. And people need to hear more of the actual education. They have to gain the knowledge. And that's why if somebody's, okay, so if our listeners are looking to get a hold of you, like, I want Robert Ferguson, I need a coach. And, you know, Robert, you have tons of coaches. Like, we haven't even talked about that yet. Let's just go into how can they get a hold of you? What would the program look like for somebody that really just wants to get started? They want that accountability we kind of touched on earlier. Like, let's talk about Diet Free Life and how they can get started.
So they can reach me by just go to dietfreelife.com, and there's a form there. They can say, I want Robert, I want to talk to Robert, I want to lose weight. And I'll either work with them or we'll connect them with one of our coaches who are all nutritionists and weight loss coaches trained on the Diet Free Life methodology. So it's not difficult to connect with me, especially with COVID-19. You can find me at the same spot every day.
Right? Oh my gosh, I'm wearing yoga pants right now. There's so many pluses of being a business person during COVID, because traveling is fun. Don't get me wrong. That can also screw you up. Like, I was traveling 2 years ago. I was in a plane every 3 weeks minimum. And so it's hard to stay on track sometimes when you're constantly having to eat out, and you can do it, but I mean, you're still getting the extra butter, the sodium, and a lot of extra things that you normally don't when you eat at home all the time. But I'm wearing yoga pants, so I call it like the mullet of the business outfit. You know, business on top, you know, yoga pants on the bottom. Like, it's just,
well, at least you have pants on.
Yes, and some people don't even have pants on during their no pants podcast, right? We could do no pants podcast. I'm serious. Like, there's a lot of pluses that came with COVID, but yes, we know that there's been a lot of negatives, and weight gain has been one of the biggest things I've seen, and people really, really struggling, not just weight gain with, you know, and we could go into substance abuse, but just seeing people really struggling I never like to see people struggle, and I want to always offer help. And that's why it's so nice that there's a solution and it's proven. I'm on third house, and I say it all the time, and I should advertise it even more, because I cut out alcohol. That makes a big difference, but it didn't matter. I'm turning 40 in a couple weeks. We know this because we have a project. I'm turning 40, and I don't want to struggle in this area anymore. And I also want to look like 30 for another 10, 15 years. I want to preserve what I've done. You know, now that I'm on track, I want to preserve it. It's like, I want to reverse the signs of aging. You can through eating. It's true. You can look very, very healthy for a long time. I just saw Pamela Anderson. The only thing that she needs to do is get her eyebrows done. And I'm telling you, that woman still looks incredible. I mean, she just did a photo shoot, and I was like, damn, lady, you're like in her 50s. It's
nice to see her all the time.
Yeah. She's
all the time.
She's an icon. Yeah.
I live in Malibu, so I would see her all the time.
Yeah. Well, now she's back up in Canada. I just read that. She just did a photo shoot, and I looked at something with her. I was like, you know what? She does look damn good. You know, she does. She took care of herself after a few years of the wild life. You know what I mean? We all go through those. She partied, yeah. She does look good. We've been through it. I partied too. But I'm so grateful to have you on. I want everybody to know what you do, how you're doing it, and everybody should be a part of Diet Free Life, because it'll free you from the scale. It'll free you from weekends ruined, dates ruined, pictures ruined or not taken. Like, think about the experiences that are not had because of how you look or how you feel. And Robert, we have some fun projects coming up that will be announced shortly, and I'm excited to do that with you. And yeah, I'm just grateful you came here today. Anything you want to say to our listeners before we go? Anything on your mind? Any projects you want to bring up that are close to you, near and dear to you?
Well, the project that you and I are going to do, right now I'm working with a good amount of women who know the struggle. Any woman over the age of 40, 50, 60 plus that wants to lose weight but know that it seems like it's almost impossible. They really get the struggle, because we get it. we have a program for them. So I would say contact me. Just go to dietfreelife.com. We'll give you more information about like what it is and how it works. It's not a program for someone in their 20s, possibly in their 30s, depending on their situation. But it's 100% designed for women who understand the importance of hormonal balance, who are done, fed up with dieting, but are ready to do something one more time with the goal of it becoming a real lifestyle. Then we have something for them.
And this has been an amazing episode, Robert. Thank you so much.